All right, so we're going to hear from Bobby Jones. He is NDOW's Outdoor Connection Coordinator. He works to help the department better connect people to nature. He focuses on helping the department do this by playing the role of amateur social scientist, marketer, communicator, or R3 coordinator, depending on the day that it is. And I'm assuming depending on the hour that it is as well. So he grew up in rural Nevada, received a wildlife ecology and conservation bachelor's degree from UNR, and after graduating spent several years in the private sector. Before becoming NDOW's habitat biologist before his current position. He's happily married with an almost 1-year-old baby girl who has her rather quickly restructured his entire life. So, off Bobby.
Good afternoon, everyone. Like Joanne said, I'm Bobby Jones. My daughter's on the left, as you can see. Her name's Macklin. My wife, Allie, our dogs, and a picture of our front yard where we now put up a garden because that's what COVID did to us. We are now expert gardeners. And then I occasionally like to get out and hunt and fish. And I like to start with a slide like this just so you know that I'm a normal person and this is my real life. And my work life counts, but it's less important, and I'm about to tell you a bunch about it, so start hearing the personal stuff. Big barriers equal big opportunities, and I'm going to get into this quite a bit, but I'd like to start with, I'm our Outdoor Connection Coordinator. I'm going to talk about the Nevada situation, just give you a little context on what Nevada is and what the rest of the world looks like compared to it. The Nevada Youth License Fund, which is what I'm here to talk about. Why bigger barriers are better. And then I've got a few fun kind of analogies, plays on words, on different lessons that we learned as we went through this process and what that looks like. And of course, winning big, because who doesn't want to win big? So just a little story. I don't know, does anyone have an outdoor connection coordinator on their staff by a raise of hands? It's a really common job. It's the best. So I work to connect people to nature. And we do it through a variety of ways. It's hunting, fishing, boating, everything under the sun, as simple as even going out for a walk. And why we do that is I try to help the department better engage and serve the public. And that's the public that likes us, that doesn't like us, people who are loud, people who don't have much to say, which is the majority. And they were talking about diversity earlier, but I mean, it's really people, places, things, wherever you're at in life, and what you're doing for someone that's an alpha generation, Gen Alpha versus baby boomers. There's all kinds of different people out there and trying to help us think through that. We also want to work to enhance conservation, and that's what we do for fish, wildlife, and their habitats, but it comes back to us in our personal lives, from the food we eat to the water we drink, to the homes we live in. And specifically, this is kind of all-encompassing for my job, but what we're going to talk about today is how we better serve and connect kids and their families to fishing. And I want to focus in on this, that this is largely the people that we don't hear from. This is not the people who are commenting on your Facebook post. We're trying to grow outside of that, and what does that look like? So the Nevada situation, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term situation, that means is there's a problem. But I'm going to give you a little context on Nevada and then get to the problem. So this is Nevada. The bottom red splotch is Las Vegas. That's over 70% of our population. Another 15% lives in the Reno area, and then there's a lonely 15% scattered throughout the rest of the state. We're the 7th largest state, just to give you a little context there. We happen to be the 2nd most urbanized, the 3rd most diverse, and the 5th fastest growing. So kind of a unique place where we are a lot of change. That is what Nevada is. But most people only see this when they think of Nevada, and I forgive you for that. That's perfectly acceptable if all you know is that Las Vegas is in Nevada. It's the face of what we have, but there's a lot more there. Now fishing. So for those of you in the back who can't see this, this is our different geographies. Las Vegas, the Reno area, and the rest of the state. And then fishing interests. Even in Las Vegas, over 50% of people are interested in fishing. That's not our problem. Our problem is the group that is fishing currently is much smaller than that, and this is reflected everywhere. This is every outdoor activity under the sun. But specifically, I want to talk to you about kids. And this year, in 2020, something happened and a bunch of people went fishing. The bummer is, and they were getting at it earlier, is a lot of states did a really good job of keeping those people, and I can't say that we were on track for doing that. June 2023, this is a projection, but we were going to fall below 2019 levels, and I've already told you that we were the 5th fastest growing state. So that means we're not even keeping pace with our actual growth. That redlines the problem, and we really wanted to do something to address that specifically. Just a precipitous decline. But why the heck is that happening? Did COVID make people go fishing? Definitely not. But we did a relevancy survey to try and better understand our public as a whole, and asked them the simple question: what keeps you from enjoying the outdoors or spending time in the outdoors? And this is perfectly representative of our population. These are the top 5 barriers: time, weather, not enough places nearby, health, and cost. Does anyone want to pick which one of these got solved by COVID? Time. Time. We gave everybody time that they never had. And we couldn't recreate COVID, or we wouldn't want to. Weather is probably not that indicative of anything here. This survey was done in July. It's very hot in Nevada in July. Not enough places nearby. It's hard to move places closer to people. And health is a code that I'd like to crack, but we're not there yet. But cost was something that we thought, like, hey, we might be able to do a little bit of something here. And that's what we focused on. Nevada Youth License Fund, that's what it is. It's a donation account that we created to pay for kids' fishing licenses to make it a little bit easier for them to go fishing in Nevada. This is a poster that I tried to get everywhere, and if you have kids that are 12 to 17 and they want to go fishing in Nevada, please scan the QR code now. No, but seriously, it's a 100% donation-driven program, and I should give you just a little bit more on Nevada. We sell youth combination licenses to kids who are 12 to 17 years old. That's what's in our regulations, and we didn't change any of that. We essentially just worked with our friends over at Gordon Darby to turn on and off a switch that while we have funds available, we give out these licenses for free. It's the exact same license. I know everyone's in a different place. Like, I'm not saying anyone else should or can do this or what that looks like, but just trying to share what we tried to make the best of a situation that we could and just make it easier. 0 qualifications besides age. I'm going to get into this a bit more later. This is my favorite part of the program. And like I said, 12 to 17, and I'm not sure how it works in every other state, but our licenses, once you get your hunter ed, now you can go hunting with the license as well. Okay, cost. So we said we were going to address it, and cost is a funny thing to address perfectly, but we did the best we could. The license goes a long ways towards actually doing something that is perfectly one-to-one, helping make it easier to go fishing. But we also paired this up with First Catch Center events. This is the mobile First Catch Center that we have in Las Vegas. And we tried to go one step further and make sure we did this in urban ponds, in places that are in close proximity to the people we want to best engage with this stuff. And now I'm going to tell you how that worked, or how that launch went. We came up with the idea in 2022, and like all good ideas, it takes a really long time to do anything. We poked it and prodded it and greased the skids and figured out what we were doing or not doing for quite a while. That was about an 8-month period. We did apply and receive an RBFF marketing grant that we used as part of this project. And then we started collecting donations in March of 2023. I'm envious of many of you that can go out and buy a deer tag. In Nevada, you can't do that. You apply for tags in the spring, and we put this box on the left at the checkout screen. So we always had the Resource Enhancement Fund, and we added this Nevada Youth License Fund. And you'll see that there are kids that are hunting in the picture as we're rolling this out with the big game application season. So we started collecting donations, and then we started issuing licenses as part of our Free Fishing Day kickoff, which is the second Saturday in June. And we promptly ran out of money in July of 2023, which was the perfect thing to do. Also, I wish it would have lasted a little longer, but we were willing to take that risk. We got some more donations and relaunched in October. So results, this is the fun part. We issued 3,700 licenses to kids in 2023, and in that first bout that I told you we made it 35 days, we did about 3,000. And I know that Texas has really big numbers. Ours are not as big, but we don't have quite as many people. This is the coolest part about that, is 2,500 kids represents the new kids. 70% of the kids that got a license through the program had never had one before. So we did two things there. One reason for that is when we launched, Free Fishing Day was June 10th. Most kids, if they're going to go hunting, have already got a license. So we issue about 75% of our licenses by that date. So just by virtue of when we launched it, we had a better shot at getting new kids, but I never would have told you it was going to be 70%. That was really cool. Most of these kids were from Nevada homes, and for us, what this meant year over year was about an 18% bump. There's a number 14% on the left, and I don't want that to confuse you. We were down about 3.5%, 4% on the year, so we had to make up for that plus 14. And I'm going to come back to age because this is cool, but I can't get there quite yet. Hits and misses. The goal was to get more kids fishing and more new kids fishing. We definitely accomplished that. No limitations on participants. I'm going to talk more about that, but like I said, anyone who is 12 to 17 who doesn't have a license, that's who this is open to. We wanted to pair it with the mobile first catch centers. This was kind of a miss for us. More so than anything, the first catch center's in Las Vegas, and it's super hot in the summer, so we did the best we could in doing early morning and late evening type fishing events paired with this, but when we launched the program, we had no idea how it was going to go. We didn't know how much money we were going to have. We didn't know how fast they were going to go. I wanted them to go in 3 days. I wanted them to last 3 years. I was all over the map. We just had to do it and see what happened. We ran out of money in a month. And another cool part about this was an olive branch. It was an olive branch to new groups and donors. One thing that's really cool about this is how supportive the hunting and fishing community was. We had over 2,000 individual people donate to the program to help kids go fishing. We had a strong team, and that's internally and externally. I'll talk more about that. But the olive branch, I know each of you has your own hunting and fishing conservation organizations that you work with closely. Of course, they were a big help in this. And then when we look beyond that, we've got our state and federal partners. And beyond that, we've got these groups that are tied to getting people to the outdoors. And these are all the connections we can currently make and that we should keep making. But what was cool for us is we got to reach like one step further. The education arm of the Salvation Army. There's 74 individual chapters of boys and girls clubs throughout the state that we reached out to. We reached out to library districts. School was out, so we didn't do as good with schools. But we just reached and pulled and prodded and just shared something that we were giving people, asking for nothing in return. And that was the coolest part, because in this outdoor connection coordinator role, it's really cool to say like, hey, we're trying to get more people outside, but what are you doing? What do you have? And we found in our survey work that Free Fishing Day was by far the thing that we were most known for. So doing this gave us an ability to kind of create Free Fishing Day for kids any day, which was fun. Okay, now I get to go into the analogies, and I'll be a little more comfortable. Bigger barriers are better, and why? So this is a nice mountain. You don't need to move mountains to move big barriers. It has nothing to do with size. Size isn't the barrier we're looking for, and we definitely want things that are practical. I want to make sure I'm not going too slow or too fast, but when people tell you what the barriers are, you really should believe them. And I don't mean asking your friend what the barriers are. I mean asking people and getting a real response and what that looks like. Some people are going to scale this wall with no problem. They're not who you need to help get over the wall. It's the person who says like, hey, this is a barrier to me. I don't have enough time, or geez, it's across town, or it's very different. If you're in a world where you work for a state fish and wildlife agency, you and all of your friends are the poorest representation of anglers that you could, or this piece of the public that you could ever hope for. The barriers they face aren't even close to the barriers you're going to face. So just figure out what they say and believe them. But this is where the big barrier happens. It's where the traffic is. You have to focus. If you're going to put all the time and effort into eliminating a barrier, you might as well work on one that opens a door to a bunch of people. Because all of the stuff takes work. And that's all we were trying to do, is take a bigger swing at one thing and see what happened. How to eat an elephant, a slide that has nothing to do with elephants. It has nothing to do with elephants, but it has everything to do with elephants. Intimately understand the problem. This is where the whole game is won and lost. It's not about, you present something and somebody jumps up with a solution. Solutions are evident only once you understand the problem intimately. I want to know how big an elephant is, male, female, what they eat, what they do, how I'm going to eat them. Is there anyone else I can learn from that's eaten an elephant before? Zoos, carnivals, Africa, where are we going to go to get an elephant? It's to the nth degree. And I ruminate on stuff way too much. But there's a lot of value in just understanding the problem to the best of your possible ability. And then it's the solutions kind of make themselves, but the idea is being open to a bunch of different solutions to solve the one problem. It wasn't getting latched onto this idea of free licenses being the end-all, be-all. It was trying to figure out how to get kids fishing and coming up with a bunch of solutions to one problem. And of course, it's going to look different for wherever you're at. Okay, so I gave this kind of question to my admin staff, and they didn't know the answer, and then I was nervous. Can anyone finish this sentence with this picture? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Thank you. I was so nervous. That is one solution to the problem, and that's what everybody says. And I'd encourage you to also invite a village to eat the elephant. Like, that's a whole nother way. And of course, there's 1,000 more ways to eat an elephant, and the more creative the solution, the more beneficial the opportunity might be. I like to say more teeth. And you probably didn't think T-Rex was going to be the next square on the box there, but the whole idea is to come up with creative solutions to problem, and the simpler the better. Icebergs of awesomeness. This is the best I have. So I know we're past lunch a little bit, and if you get one thing out of it, it's icebergs of awesomeness today. One thing out of this presentation. Reason to say no. You can see the reason to say no to an idea from a mile away. It's very easy. Your brain is built to do that. That's the negative potential. There's always some kind of potential downside. The ideas that have no downside or no risk associated with them probably aren't dangerous enough. And when I say dangerous, I mean there's always going to be potential downside to things. The idea is that you need to look below the surface to what's usually quite a bit larger, and that's the positive potential for an idea. And you're trying to leverage ideas and opportunities that have this huge positive potential, but you have to pay a little more attention to figure out what it is. So I'm going to talk about 3 icebergs that we kind of encountered with this program, and they were all things we really went into the weeds on. Oh yeah, I got a good line. Negative potential is what we see first, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. So the first iceberg, people will take advantage of it. They don't need the money. They can afford to get their kid a license. Very valid. Definitely something we discussed. That's definitely this program can be taken advantage of, quote unquote. Non-resident kids. Well, we get it for the kids that live in Nevada, but why would we offer it to kids that don't live in Nevada? That's number 2. 16 and 17-year-olds. I got a job when I was 14, like a 16-year-old, they got a car, like they can figure it out. $15 is not too much for them to figure out a license. These are 3 of the things that we kind of dealt with back and forth. And now I'm going to get you to the positives. People will take advantage of it. It helps more kids go fishing. This is the problem we're working to solve. If people are taking advantage of it, that means it's working. It's actually a good thing. This isn't just for someone who's too broke to pay for a fishing license. We want to get more kids fishing. And one positive experience is worth it. Even if the kids never came back again, but they had one positive experience fishing, that's worth it. At least it was worth it to us. Non-resident kids, it helps more kids go fishing. kids that live near the border. We have waters that are right on the state borders. Of course, we want those kids to go fishing. Same with the 16 and 17. There's a little theme here. It helps more kids go fishing. These were the positive, this is what we were looking for. I mean, yes, we hear the negative, but also it's solving our problem. And then there's stuff even further that we couldn't have possibly foresaw. 70% of the kids never having a license before, getting one through this program, that's a super win for us. That's a whole new group of people we probably never would have reached, definitely wouldn't have reached a lot of them. For non-residents, we've got kids from divorced households, and 10% of the non-resident kids who got a license through this program had Nevada addresses. So they either just moved there, or they're split, and mom, dad live in different places, or I'm with my grandparents for the summer, or I visited, or whatever it is. But 10% of them had Nevada addresses, so that was interesting. And this is where I got to thank all of you, non-resident donors. This 25% of our donors, individual donors in the big game draw, were non-residents who funded this program. That was a super cool finding. And then I told you I was going to get back to the age thing, and just for fun, I'm going to kind of lead into it. Does anyone think that a lot of kids that were 16 or 17 got a license through this program? There's at least one nodding. I got this. There were more 17-year-olds that got a license through this program than any other age group when we talk about individual years from 12 to 17. Whether that's intuitive or not, if we would have skipped out on that, we would have missed the whole thing. Here's a pretty graph. The blue is total for individual years. The years are along the bottom, 12 to 17. Red is new, gray is loyal, yellow is reactivated. There were more new 17-year-olds than new 12-year-olds. And there were more than twice as many 17-year-olds as there were 12-year-olds. And I'm just impressing upon this point of that if we didn't ever go down the road, we never would have got there. If we would have kind of limited ourselves before we started, we just wouldn't have got there. But pretty interesting stuff. And I think it's clear now, or this is just my guess, is that kids that have a little more freedom, they have a little more discretionary time, potentially a vehicle, we're probably seeing a little bit of extra drawn from this. But cool finding nonetheless. Here's a good one, taking scissors to a gunfight, which is always a good idea. Because we know that scissors can be used as a weapon, but if the other person has a gun, you definitely don't have the tool for the job. You're severely outmatched. I was thinking about it this morning, but if you would have went and ate, and you went to pay for your meal with a personal check, this is a form of payment, but this is probably not the one that you want for the job. It just doesn't make sense. So which brings me to part of the partnership game and having the right tools for the job. And Mitch is here. Gordon Darby is our licensing vendor. And I save this to the end because I know not everybody works with a modern licensing vendor and system. But they're such powerful tools. I would encourage you to spend every waking moment that you have in your job today until you get this. That's guaranteed a good use of your time. This is just one dashboard that we were working on and pieces and parts pasted on here for how we're monitoring what kids are doing. We built this just for this and, looking at who's new, who's lost, who's reactivated. That 1235 number, we sent an email out after this just trying to reach and engage them and say hey, we're running out of licenses and we're going to be shutting the program down soon. You better, jump in. And that number, I want to say, is up another 100, and that's our smallest bucket. But people we probably never would have gotten back if we didn't have something to kind of engage them. And just having the right tool for the job matters a ton. I couldn't show any of the personal data, so I just have this list of things. But that's essentially a whole frontier of how you can cycle down to a very specific point and reach out to groups of kids and try and engage them. In this once they're in the door. So the red X is where we would have been, and the arrow in the box is where we got to. We were going to fall behind on the resident numbers, actually below 2018 levels for youth fishing, and we're able to make a jump. And if you think it's cheating to give kids free fishing licenses, that's okay, but the game is to get more kids fishing. And if we get them in the door once, we we're competing with everything. They were talking about the scrolling today, and I'm laughing thinking about all the campaigns we're running and all the things we're doing, and you're trying to win in the height of marketing, information, everything that you've ever saw under the sun. Like, we have to come up with novel tools and ways to get kids or get people engaged. So what's next? I would like us, or at least our internal goal, is to beat COVID. I hate the idea that we had a pandemic that pushed people outside, beating us doing the job of getting people outside. So that's our goal. We did pretty dang good this year, but that would be the place that we would like to get to, because we know it's there. And no, I haven't figured out the time game yet, but when we do. Age-specific content, I think we realize that 16 and 17-year-olds are not engaged the same way as 12 and 13-year-olds. So we're going to try and think about that and what that looks like and how we engage these different kind of fractions of an audience and what a family's looking at when that comes along. Lookalikes, this is definitely the crowd for lookalikes, but we have all this data on kids and we can see who received a free fishing license, where they live, what street. They're more similar to the kids in that neighborhood, and we can reach out to that neighborhood with very specific content. Fishing opportunity near you. We already know that they're more likely to want to go, kind of going down these different paths. Very, very targeted marketing. In Spanish households, I didn't even get into this in the presentation because I had way too many slides and I was getting rebuffed that I wasn't going to make it, and that made a ton of sense because I can go on for a long time. But we did a bunch of Spanish advertisements as part of our initial launch, and those actually outperformed our English ads. And there's a couple reasons for that, probably. One is that we don't do a ton of stuff in Spanish, and the other is that from our survey analysis, that cost barrier is bigger on average to the Spanish-speaking population. So this might be a better way to engage them, which was part of the idea initially, but we just didn't know how it would play out. And we don't track ethnicity as part of our customer profile, but we recently added, if you prefer, what language you prefer, so there's a Spanish checkbox or other checkboxes, so we can feed information to these people once we have someone who speaks Spanish working for us, to kind of do this work. But the idea being we can also run down those lookalike roads. And there's a whole audience there that we know is we could better serve by getting them more stuff that they can, content they can engage with, opportunities that they're looking for in that language. And for the record, Nevada's, 35, 38% Hispanic. So it's a fairly significant piece of our base. And TBD is probably AI based on, earlier conversations and things like that. But we don't really know what it's going to be. We have to be open to more stuff being out there. Winning big, just going over this kind of the take-home stuff here. Know your situation, know what is going on in your part of the world. It looks way different in Nevada than it looks in anywhere else. We're the driest state in the country and we're trying to get people to go fishing. It is sometimes a tough job. But wildlife is the coolest, there's no doubt. Identify the big barriers, find out where the traffic's at, what are the kind of tiny pieces and points that you can push through that open up a big hole for people to come. Eat the elephant. Understand the problem to the best of your ability. You don't have to obsess over it, but you probably should. Navigate the icebergs of awesomeness. I can't tell you how excited I was to come up with that slide. It finally encapsulated something I was trying to share with people I work with and say, this is what I'm talking about. Value propositions. Don't take scissors to a gunfight. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then I wanted to thank Gordon Darby and then our internal staff. We have a really close collaboration with them, and that we kind of push these things through at the last second, and then everybody races together, but kind of get some buy-in that there's a lot of value here, and that we're trying to build new stuff, and it's always going to be a little bit clunky, but there's something worth it. And then Aaron will be really excited. He's in the audience and he's holding a bunch of awards here, but just being a team, winning together, losing together. I had another slide and I think it was, I'd rather lose spectacularly than accept mediocrity. The idea just being that we have to be willing to take some shots and they're not all gonna land, but every once in a while we will, and we'll get to win and lose together. Oh, I did have it on there, dang. I wasn't sure. I keep dwelling on that because that's something I wish we just did more of. And yeah, the idea is that we're just trying to fill in this gap. We know there's a void, and that this one little thing that we can change just enough, and people are supportive of it. Hunters and anglers, sportsman groups, all kinds of organizations are supportive of trying to do this. And it's a way for us to reach new audiences that we're pretty excited about. And then, of course, if you guys want to learn more, you can scan to a webpage that we put together for it. And I think that's all I've got.
Hi, thank you so much for that presentation. That was an awesome fund. My question is, how did these free licenses contribute to Sportfish restoration, and did they count as paid licenses?
Yes, so they all count. Essentially, we have this donation bucket that once those dollars go to a license, it's just the same as any other license. We made no structural, regulatory, legislative changes of any kind. So yes, they do count. And so for us, right, if they're fishing automatic, and if someone goes and does hunter ed and has that added to their profile, it's a hunting license too.
Did you happen to monitor the parents? Were they also lapsed anglers, or do you plan to go back and see if those parents were lapsed, or if they were already, did they already have licenses?
It's an excellent question. I think it's, in all seriousness, we'd need something very strong math-based to try and measure that, because you would have to tie the timelines together to hope for that. But it's definitely worth investigating. I know it has some kind of positive effect. It almost can't not. But I don't know what that is, and we haven't measured it. That's a great question. This is the opposite effect. You don't need to do that. We're trying to make the best of the situation. But it's all relative, because I mean, I've investigated some other states, but not everyone, and I didn't want to make it a comparison game, but I know California's not here today because they're not allowed to travel. They have, so you're free till 16, and then the fishing license, I think, is $65. So if you get 2 fishing licenses, you're already 50% over what our 5-year window is. And that doesn't count any of the hunting. So it's, I mean, everyone has something. Arizona has a $5 license. They're probably in the room. That's pretty spectacular. And that's for residents and non-residents.
Yeah, can you compare the 70% new to the baseline? So,
yeah, I think it's about 40-some%, low 40s. We actually built that dashboard to get that number. Yeah. Yep. And if in that timeline I talk about on the when we first launched it, I know that has a great deal to do with it, because you're just working at a different pool. If we were giving licenses out, and we have, right, this fall and into the spring months, that tends to tick down because you have more of the people that are coming back getting ready for, because they took hunter ed when they were 13 in February, getting ready for the draw. So you have kind of this, I mean, if I looked at it today, that's probably ticked down 3 or 4%. But I think it's a timeliness thing. I'm really bummed we ran out of money only because I knew that we weren't meeting the demand in the summer months, but we just had no idea what was gonna happen. I mean, I looked at it every 4 hours for a month. It was terrible. But to your point, I think it was about a 30% difference than what the entire previous year was. Yeah.
So I had 2 quick questions, and sorry if I missed this first one. For the survey, to get the information about your barriers, did you do a survey, and if so, was that internal or done like outsourced? And then my second question was just the logistics of your fishing mobile trailer. We have something similar in Utah, but our folks don't like to use it because they say that they're just untangling fishing line for hours and hours after, and it's kind of a mess to upkeep it. So just kind of the logistics of how that works too.
So the survey was done, it was a survey tool built with us in responsive management as part of a multi-state grant relevancy pathways to implementing the relevancy roadmap project, so it wasn't fishing based. I just pulled that question to draw from. That was representative of all the adults in Nevada and what the barriers they face are. And then we had a specific piece on Hispanic audiences that you could garner more out of and, you know, compare and contrast those. So yeah, and I want to say the sample was like 800 of 2.4 million. So it was 95% confidence interval. Nobody cared about that, but I threw it in anyways. And your next question, we have the mobile trailer, and I don't run it. Our Southern Nevada contact, Abby, does, and she's awesome. I think she probably must love untangling fishing line, because I think that's just part of the gang, but she takes it out all the time. I know she's really excited, though. She's been running some kayak fishing classes and stuff, but you know, in Southern Nevada and Vegas is just such a different animal than the rest of the state. But the proximity is a huge deal. We've got, I mean, I pitched that hard at ACI, but most of our like younger adults, they won't travel very far, and we have very limited fishing opportunities for them in that part of the world.
And one thing about the First Catch Centers, that's through RBFF's program. I know that's an issue. We hear a lot about the untangling lines, but we've also heard that the First Catch Centers help people actually get more events done, because it's like just an easy way to almost just store the information and get it to where the event is. So I know that alone has helped a lot of states with their events, is the trailer.
I was wondering, when the 17-year-olds turn 18 next year, are you planning on tracking whether they purchase a license when they have to pay for one?
Yes, so they're going to have to pay for it, but we are going to track it. If I could show you, oh, hold on, I have the clicker in my hand. No. If I could show you that, though, we built the bottom end of that dashboard just for that, because we want to follow kids through time and see what that looks like. When did you get it, you know, say 10 years down the line? Did you get a free license? How many did you get? What does it look like longer down the road? We know they slough off. Do they come back around when they're 25? Because that's one thing that I think is funny, is that we have these younger adults, or they're starting families and they come back, but for how many of them, where did that start? And if you have a free license, you never get to track any of that. So at least we're trying to make something out of nothing, essentially, and getting to chase kids through time. And that's why I'm so big on the 2,500 in the door, just because it's a whole nother, like, you know, the people who are that much closer.
Thank you. So this is awesome. And I have some experience with doing something similar to this, but I wanted to know if you had any, and I might have missed this too, if you had any output from the anglers, from the youth before. Like, did they have to come to a clinic, or did they have to do anything before they were able to receive that free license?
Nothing. Nope. We're just trying to create a path to a door to get you out. And I didn't get into this, but when we launched, it was essentially a week of a lot of emails to different groups, personalized from me, from other staff, from whoever, trying to engage groups and just getting them to share the information, whether that was a library or a Boys and Girls Club or a Big Brothers Big Sisters, and just getting it on people's radar. And what I realized was there were so many people who didn't know if you needed a license, when you needed it, that kids under 12 were already free. So it ended up being a little bit different of a campaign than we thought, but no, we didn't have any qualifications of any kind.
And several years ago, there was a program that kids could get in for free. They got some information, they turned in some things, and then they were able to get that free license. So there is some data out there. There are data pools out there, but this is really good. And have you considered using an app to track that?
An app to track if people are getting a license?
After they get their free license?
I'm sorry, I might not understand the premise of the question.
Having kids participate, like, have you considered having kids participate in an app to kind of report what they're doing, or so that you can see later on down the road? Or are you just working on license data?
We're just working on license data now. The app question is a whole whole ball of wax. What does the app do? Who buys it? Who pays for it? How do we manage it? But maybe that's an option for sure. And I had one thing that I lost that Stephanie would get mad at me if I didn't mention it. One thing that was cool, or at least how we tried to promote it, was we tried to take the barrier and turn it into an incentive. So even if you didn't need, like, it's just the competition of the day is that might be the difference between a family going to the movies or going fishing. And it was trying to like capture that. Now, how you measure that exactly, I don't know, but that was what we were working on. Oh, we're going to continue it. Good question. So we kind of redoubled our efforts on the donations to relaunch it. We'll probably close the program down because we're going to run out of money again, and then reopen it up after the application period, just to try and do our best to get it to kids who wouldn't have got it otherwise. And that's a delicate balance that we talk about all the time and what that looks like. But if you know anyone with 500 grand that would like us to keep it open all the time, like we're looking for big fish. Yeah. Apology accepted. You're allowed to be late. The goal was to beat COVID, which was like 16,400. We didn't create a fundraising goal just because we were shooting in the dark, but we wanted to pick a line in the sand to try and meet. We got most of the way there, but not all of the way there. And I think it's more or less we need to talk while we shut this program down through the application season on how much we want to do this year and make more of a concerted effort. Because when we promoted it the first time around, we're asking people to donate to a fund that we've never given away a license through. And just having more kind of awareness of the program, I'm hoping we kind of create some inertia there. But yeah, it's just without knowing, what do you have, what do you do?
So, you guys bought license for the kids. How many events did you have those years, or did they go with their parents to just independently fish, or did you guys host the fishing events for these kids that you bought license for?
Yeah, so we launched it in tandem with our free fishing day event, and the reason is that's the day of the year where we kind of create, in each part of the state, we've got several events going on at once. Free fishing day, free fishing rods, all kinds of stuff, trying to like target those never evers. And then we have angler educators in different parts of the state that run events, and we reach out to people based on where they're at to let them know when things are going on. And that's what I was getting at, though, that we kind of blew it. We didn't blow it, but it was just one of those things. You ran out of money before we had 3 times as many events scheduled, so they just weren't paired with the license. But Abby's super active in the southern region, in our urban ponds there. We've got different educators in each of the regions, but the numbers total off my head, I don't know. But Abby probably runs like, oh man, I don't know. I don't want to undersell her. She runs a lot of events, but trying to, be supportive and have that structure there for sure.
Would you consider converting to like a half price incentive?
I mean, I consider all of the stuff. But the reason we went with this was it was clean in that we didn't change any license structure. It's on or off. It's really democratic. If you're there and we have the money, great. And when not, they're the same price. I don't know what the return is there or what the upswing or downswing of that would be. But it definitely makes a difference. Thanks.